Hi, welcome to another edition of We Review Races with Billy and Sam. Today's international edition is, I'm going to go with Lanzarote, or my preferred pronunciation, I think, is Lanzarote.
That's what the announcer was calling it, was Lanzarote, but we're pretty sure it's Lanzarote. Lanzarote.
In the Canary Islands, off the coast of Africa, not attached to the continent of Africa. Thus, technically, we raced in Spain.
I mean, we've been going to Spain the whole time, but this place is nowhere close to Spain.
Did you not know that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
You said we were going to Spain. I mean, it would be like the Florida Keys off the coast of Florida, right? The Canary Islands, as part of Spain, should be off the coast of Spain. Not like 1,000 miles off the coast of Spain.
They're not quite that far.
It's like Hawaii is to America, man.
We'll have to do that on the stories. So stay tuned for our stories edition. But this is going to be our race review, so we'll try to quickly go through it, or reasonably go through it. This is officially a Ironman branded race, and with 700 entrants, this is the smallest Ironman race that we know of.
That we've ever participated in. I mean, even Buffalo Springs was usually 1,000 people, and it was a licensed race, meaning that they paid Ironman to use the Ironman name. So we believe that this race is the exact same thing, that Club La Santa paid Ironman to use the Ironman name. But you still get all of the benefits of an Ironman race, the roll down slots, the good timing, the swag, all that good stuff.
Yeah. We're going to go over this, but yes, fantastically put on race.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and go through it. If you're considering this race, Club La Santa is the official sponsor and is a resort. They are 35 minutes.
Not anywhere close to the actual race location.
Drive away from the actual race start and finish. So while they were a good place to stay, if you want to explore the island and you're getting a rental car, it works out fine. But also there are many hotels and places that are significantly closer.
In fact, the check-in, I guess, let's go straight to check-in. The check-in was at a totally different hotel, which was closer to the race, but not at the race.
Yeah, still another, still a little ways.
I mean, it was like 5 or 6 miles away, but it wasn't. I mean, you had to drive from the hotel to the Ironman Village, which was probably the smallest village.
So I guess these could be our travel tips as well. Worth renting a car. Yeah. Technically supposed to have an international driver's license.
Didn't not ask us for that.
Didn't stop us. But I mean, reasonably American rules of the road. So driving was perfectly fine. I say that as I didn't drive at all. So, but it was a stick shift. So
yeah, make sure you have you can rent, I think, automatic transmission. They were a little bit more expensive, and 1 million speed cameras.
Yes.
I mean 1 million, and they wanted you to go like 25 miles an hour, like across the whole island.
Oh man, it drove us crazy.
But anyway, so let's talk about check-in. And check-in was at the at whatever that hotel was.
H10, something like that.
They had already assigned numbers, so it wasn't like you were getting a rolling number. So we could not get numbers together for transition. In transition, the numbers were on the bike racks, so we didn't get spots together because the numbers had already been assigned. They did have a game, the Oreo game, before where you're trying to win. Can you do it now?
No, not on
anyway,
camera.
You try to get Oreo into your mouth. But they made you had to buy a 1-day license if you hadn't already purchased it. Go ahead and buy that online because it was cheaper online.
$4 or €4 cheaper to buy ahead of time and not have to deal with anything rather than.
Yeah. They gave you a nice bag. Show them the bag.
Show them the bag.
So we've been getting the dry bags in the U.S. This is almost the exact same bag that we got in France, except for it's different colors.
Yeah. So same theory, I guess, as the States, that you have the same bags and different colors and you know, set up
it's a nice bag.
Yeah, great backpack.
Got a water bottle and anything else. The timing chip you picked up at transition when you checked your bike in, which that was exactly the same as France. Any other check-in stuff?
No, nothing. You know, with France we had all that food, and so we were expecting to be fed, and it was not.
Yeah,
that
there
way
was
here.
there was no food at the check-in. So then you take you transition. Transition was bagged. So similar to the World Championships, or similar to France wasn't even bagged, was it?
I don't think so. Not like this.
So it was similar to Challenge Austria or whatever. But basically you had benches that you sat on, and you changed your clothes on the benches, and then you ran and got your bike. Only 4 bikes per rack.
4 bikes per rack with that, which was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and they could, with that system, they could easily do 8 bikes per rack. Well, 8 bikes on the middle rack. On the 2 edge racks, they could still only probably do 4.
This was a bit interesting. It was a fairly long, I don't want to say reasonably steep, hill, and just a straight street. So they had a bike rack in the middle of the street, or effectively. And then 2 bike racks on the sidewalks either way. That was an interesting choice. I'm sure there's a logical reason for it, but on the ones for the sidewalks, there was no way to use the other side of the rack. For the one in the middle of the street, you could
use both sides.
Yeah, I felt like they were going to bring the sidewalks down onto the street,
but they didn't.
And they did not. So that was an interesting little tidbit there.
They did have carpet going all the way from the swim exit through transition to the bike exit, and that was a good more than a quarter of a mile.
Yeah,
it was forever. But they had carpet the whole way, so it made it a lot easier on your feet.
I absolutely wanted to mention this. Where the swim exit, I guess we should probably cover that during a swim, but swim exit, they did a fantastic job of putting out carpet. Challenge, I have seen do this. I have never seen another Ironman race do it like this. And kudos to the race.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference. That's, you know, from the perspective of the racer. Hey, I don't have to. It was paved. I don't know what to call it. It was concrete with like little stones sticking out of it, but they were smooth. So smaller than river rock, but it would have been an annoyance. Not undoable, but an annoyance to run that far on it. They put down the carpet, they taped it down. That was amazing. Kudos.
I mean,
to
you
the
could
race.
tell they used that same carpet year after year, because
Yeah.
it was not new looking carpet.
No.
But at some point during doing these races, they figured out, hey, we got to have carpet, and they've been using it ever since. So that was nice. I mean, for having the bag to transition, you had to check in your bike early, and you had to check in your run bag and your bike bag early.
Yeah.
You did have access to your bike the morning of. They didn't really want you to have access to your bags the morning of, but they had people in there. If you wanted to put something in your bag, they would go get your bag and let you put it in there and then take your bag back. You couldn't physically go in there and do your bag. I liked the bag system.
I do.
I mean, it makes it a little bit cleaner. You don't have that one person that sprawls out everywhere. So that's I think that's fine.
I had like 5 people at where my bag was when I came out of the swim
on the bench. There's
and
only
so
much.
Yeah, there was just not a little further down. There was actually room, so I grabbed my bag and then trekked down to where there was comfortable room on the bench. That's the only real downside to the whole thing. And I mean, this just isn't a PR race. Let's call
You're not
a spade
setting a
on
PR
this
here.
one. So, they bill this race as the hardest,
toughest
Ironman in the world, because they have both a full and a half here, not on the same day. But this is the toughest, billed as the toughest Ironman on the planet, and without Kona experience,
I'd say yes.
I think we're going to agree. This is an extremely.
Oh, it's harder in South Africa by far.
Oh yeah, and he compared it to St. George. So for the World Championships, generally what they do is find the biggest hill they can and send you up it. That's what the deal is. That's what they do.
This one they found the biggest hill and sent you up it 5 times.
Yeah. Well, 3 times anyway. Yeah. So the swim.
Anything else with transition?
That pretty well covers transition. Post race, you didn't hand your chip back in. You went back to transition to get your bike, and that was when you turned in your chip. So make sure you're holding on to your chip until you get your bike pickup. So
and they mark when you turn it in. So they know if you didn't turn in yours, you know about it. All right, so moving on to the swim.
So this is an interesting swim. So ocean swim, but fairly protected is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
You went through a marina. You come out to open ocean and you come back in. Waves were minimal.
Yeah, not bad.
And I don't see it being bad there ever. Anything's possible, but like going through the open part of the marina and then the very last part is in a protected bay. So I'm going to say of the 1.2, maybe 400 or so of it was protected, 500, something like that. Less than half was protected from the ocean, but the ocean part was not bad. You came...
I'm going to call it a fish hook, man, because you pretty much went straight forever. I mean, there was like some little, bends. I wouldn't really call them turns. And then you basically made a U and came back and then went into shore. The start and the finish, 2 different places.
Not far walkable, and transition is basically in the middle of them.
Yeah.
So that part of it wasn't bad. Once again, porta potties. I guess we should mention post transition. They had a bunch of porta potties after transition, so you got out and races. These are the European porta potties where they have like a bowl up under. I don't know how to call that. Inside
they got
of the
pretty
seat.
Nasty.
And so they had a flushing
mechanism.
Valve, but sometimes the poo didn't flush. And so it just got backed up, and they had somebody there with a water hose to clean everything out. So, once again, kudos to the race. They had an issue that they knew about, and they had solved for it. They didn't have that guy out there until we all went to the swim. So, yeah.
The porta potties are outside of transition because transition is not big enough to hold the porta potties, which means that the porta potties are pretty much open to the public. Didn't have an issue. They know how to form a line in Europe and use it, and so didn't. Even though there would seem like it's a long line, it moved really fast. But you go through the swim, and that's your chance. If you need to use the porta potty, you got to use it right then there before you go into transition. Because once you go into transition, then you're out on the bike course and there's nothing until you get to the first aid station.
Yeah.
Which isn't that far away, but it's a considerable distance. I mean, a considerable time difference. We'll cover that. But
cover that in a minute. So back to the swim. This water is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Really, truly clear. It was wetsuit legal. Is apparently traditionally wetsuit legal, but was not. You could do that comfortably without a wetsuit, and we did the day before. So certainly bring your wetsuits. You're going to get use of it. You get to see fish. Really pretty water. There is at the end of the fish hook is the only place that I saw everybody kind of get caught up. Swimming on top of one another. Other than that, the start was wide enough. You had plenty of space the whole way through.
Bring tinted goggles when you made the fish hook turn. You looked straight into the sun. And you were looking straight into the sun for about 400 or 500 meters. Yeah. So much that it was so hard. I just had to swim off the people that were in front of me. I just looked for heads because I could not see the buoys. And I even had tinted goggles. So you don't want them to be super dark because then you're gonna have a hard time seeing on the way out. But Yeah, definitely on after you make that fish hook and you're heading back towards you, you need to be prepared for the sun to hit you, and the glare off the water was pretty brutal too. The buoys were not. Ironman uses red buoys for every turn. They had red, green, and yellow.
Yeah, it was a weird,
which was kind of weird for your turns.
But the end of the fish hook buoy was directly into the sun, so you couldn't see it if you wanted to. But yeah, they were clublet. They were a special type of buoy where there were turns, but it was not the standard Ironman format, so it took some getting used to.
Turned in, got to some sand. You ran up the sand onto some steps, and it was a fair number of steps to get up to the top. You're kind of climbing out of the ocean, and then you go from there into transition. And like I said, you need to hit the porta potties before you get into transition, but that's where you get to the bike.
Well, let's talk about the bike.
If you're a bike person, and I like to consider myself a bike person.
I think you're a bike person. You're a bike guy.
If you like hills and riding into the wind and rough roads, this is the race for you. So I'm just going to start. Let's just describe the bike course. So the first 4 miles on the bike course. So you come up out of transition, and you have to go a little bit before you mount your bike. But you mount your bike and you go 4 miles. Okay, at the end of 4 miles is the first transition. Is the first aid station. It took me 28 minutes to do that 4 miles.
Yeah,
28 minutes, and I wasn't slacking. I wasn't pushing because I knew this was going to be tough. But you're going straight into the wind, and I don't know if the wind changes. Maybe it does, or maybe that's normal. But you're on this road, and if you just look at it, it just looks kind of like a flat road. But it's not. It's going uphill because it's kind of straight, and then it kind of turns and kind of goes up, and then you see kind of a steeper area. But yeah, that's a tough. And you do that hill 3 times. That exact same hill you do 3 times. The course is 2 full loops, and then up this hill and then back down the hill. You need to be prepared because the wind was blowing hard, and you were right there in it. And I look down and I'm looking at my watch to see how fast I'm going, and it says 5. It was 5 point something, but whatever. I'm like, it's gonna be a long day.
There's no way to oversell this. You look at the grade. Ironman, of course, has it posted on the website, and you look at the elevation changes, and you know that this thing is going to be brutal. And that only tells half the story because the wind was nasty.
You do not get credit for the wind. What was it, 4,400 feet of climb or something like that? Yeah, my Garmin
said you're just short of 4,500.
But, you add the wind onto it, and it's like 7,000 feet of climb.
I buy that 100%.
Because you're just trying to get small, you're trying to get comfortable. That being said, when I got to the top of the hill, I did not feel like I did in Blue Ridge, where I was like, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, burnt out. And because you got to do it 3 times. So after you do it the first time, you then know.
Yeah, it took me 28 minutes the first time. It took me 27 the second time, and I didn't even look the third time. But then you have another hill that you have to do twice, which is very similar. So there were basically 5 climbs. And it was basically you climbed for a while, and you turned around and you went, because the wind was at your back and you were going pretty fast, and then you climbed. And then you went downhill, and then you climbed. So that's pretty much what it was. They had 2 aid stations, and you hit the first aid station 3 times, and the other aid station twice. So you actually had 5 aid stations, which is super unusual.
Yeah.
But they were in good spots,
and they were well manned. They were well prepared.
They had the bottles open for you if you wanted them. They they were talking to us in Spanish, but
agua. Agua and whatever the other stuff is called.
So one thing that I've learned is that if it's going to rain, you want to wear your gloves. Okay, so I don't wear gloves anymore riding bikes just because it takes a little bit longer to put them on, a little bit longer to take them off. And I don't really need them. It's not the extra padding that you get from gloves, not that big of a deal. But when it rains, you're going to want gloves because my handlebars get slick, and so it's hard for me to hang on to them. At least the lower ones. The upper ones have a little bit better padding. This race, I'm wishing I had gloves because my hands were so sweaty, and I'd put sunscreen on, and the sunscreen kind of bled down to my hands and got on my handlebars and so slippery. That very first aid station, I stopped to get some paper towels to dry off my handlebars and everything because it's a pretty steep hill going down, and you want to have control of your brakes and all of that. So I'd recommend wearing gloves on this race.
This is it's a sneaky hot race. You have a constant wind no matter where you are because you're on an island. And so you're not feeling as hot as I think you're actually getting, and so the sweat is being absorbed or blown away or whatever. It's hot. Prep with salt.
It doesn't. I mean, it's low 80s, high 70s, low 80s.
Correct. And we had cloud cover. Our two out of the 3 laps is what I'm going to call it. For me, were completely overcast, and then the third one was reasonable clouds coming through. So you had shade off of that, or cloud shade off of that. Anyway, there are no trees on this bike. Sorry, there are trees. You can see them, but there is no shade.
I don't know, man. There's not very, you can count all of the trees on the island on like 2 hands.
Yeah, the natural trees are got to be that.
Yeah.
So
there may be some natural bushes. I'm not sure there's any natural trees at all. But anyway, talking about the bike. So after you get past the first aid station, you go down a hill, and that one is it kind of, you go through this little town, and you go over this speed bump, and you'd get air if you don't slow down. And so, I mean, you're cranking down on the brakes to get to that, which kind of sucks because, you're losing your momentum from the thing. Hard right turn, and then a super hard left turn to go out of the town. Luckily, going out of the town, there's no more speed bumps.
I still had. I didn't hit my brakes on that, but we had some quartering winds as you're going through that, and so it's
you want
holding on.
If you have a disc wheel,
that's what I was thinking about.
Man, I feel sorry for you. The pros, they had disc wheels.
I did not see any age groupers with disc wheels. They may have been out there, and I just didn't see them. But I would not recommend deep dish wheels here at all. I would certainly not recommend a full sail with this wind. That's wicked.
Yeah. And I mean, you had to. I mean, there were parts that felt like Buffalo Springs where you're kind of leaning in, trying to keep your bike from falling over.
Working with what you had.
So after you leave the town, then you go up and you get on this really good road.
Good night. That's great.
I mean, you're going uphill, but the road itself really good. So the first hill, the road's not so great. Coming down, the road is awful. But this next uphill, it's a decent. I mean, good. Very good.
Very good road.
You have to go through a couple of like roundabouts, and you end up going down an exit and up into like the whatever is that, national park?
National park. Yeah.
I mean, it's lava rock. I mean, it looks like you're on Mars. I mean, literally looks like you're on Mars.
Yeah.
Going through there. But you go up there and you do a U-turn and come back down. And when you come back down, the wind's at your back. You're going downhill. And I mean, it was pretty easy to maintain 30 without really even pedaling, going down that and out all the way back into town. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yeah, I could maintain 30 miles an hour without pedaling.
Without much effort.
Yeah.
So you get these breaks. You do these great big hills that take you forever to get up, and then you get these long breaks where you feel good about yourself. And then you go back into town and you go back up that same hill.
Yeah.
The exact same hill that was the first one, and you do it all over again. And then you do that whole loop again, and then for the third time you go up that same first hill, and it's just a roundabout where the aid station is. You do the aid station roundabout and you come all the way down. And when you come down, that was my top speed. was their 50.1. Yeah, 50.1. And I'm going to tell you, that road is rough.
Yeah.
That's not a smooth 50.1. That's a...
I know that I did not reach 50.1. I hit my brakes a bunch. It scared me. I've been 50 miles an hour on the bike before, so speed in and of itself doesn't scare me. That road and those winds scared the tar out of me.
I mean, it felt like I was in like Apollo 11 or whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that road is just terrible. That one road, and really the rest, and had you only gone up it, it would have been fine because it was
because you're going so slow.
Yeah, it's not helping you at all, but it wasn't that big a deal. But yeah, coming back down that chapter was just brutal.
I felt like this was going to be like a 4 hour at that 28 when I did that first 4 miles in 28 minutes. I'm like, I wonder if I can do this in the correct amount of time.
I was having the same thought.
It ended up being like 3:40 for me or something, which was a lot better than I thought that it was going to be. I mean, there were some. I had, I think, one 10-minute, 29-second 5 mile interval, and then another like right at 11 or just a little bit below 11. Anyway, it was the downhills made up for the uphills or helped, but it was still a tough bike. I mean, I've done bikes same distance an hour or less than that.
Correct.
So it's a tough bike. Be ready for it.
That's exactly right. I've got nothing to add. That was gorgeous.
So beautiful scenery, not lush green scenery. This is going to be the stuff that you've never seen before on a bike. I mean, it's all lava rock. The fields are... I mean, they have planted fields covered in little tiny lava rock because this particular lava rock soaks up moisture, and so that's how they get their plants to grow. So anyway, it's going to be different kind of beautiful scenery, but still beautiful scenery.
It was super scenic. It's really cool. Going through the towns, my experience in previous European cities has been, the town would be out, drinking and celebrating and hollering. This was not that at all. You were, I don't want to call it lonely because there were plenty of people on the course, and so in my case, I was constantly being passed. But I didn't see townsfolk on that side of it. In the actual city of whatever that was called,
Las Palmas.
Lots of people, lots of cheering. But yeah, going through those towns and going down.
Yeah, it was closed course too, which is important. I mean,
yes,
there may have been a car or two that was like local traffic, but the course itself closed. I mean, I guess those cars could have just been race support too.
Yeah, there were all of the cars that I saw were some form of race support or ambulance.
So I saw a fair number of people quit the race on the bike.
And understandably, I would not.
I mean, if you're looking
for this is a St. George Pro or St. George prep course. It would be a good one. It's a brutal bike. There's no way to soft sell that.
All right, moving on. You come back into the exact same transition. You drop off your bike at the exact same spot that you picked it up. You run down to the exact same seats where you changed clothes before. You change clothes again to get into your run course. As you exit transition, the porta potties are right there. So this one, as you're leaving transition, you can go to the porta potties.
Bike in and bike out are the same spot. So swim in and run out are the same spot. Bike in, bike out is at the top of the hill. Swim in, run out is at the bottom. I don't know that they had pre-assigned numbers. So I don't know.
And they pre-assigned them a week in advance. So it's not like,
I
mean, it was just the luck of the draw of where you got your thing this time.
So this is a 4-loop course on the run. Like 4.5 really might feel closer. 4 and some change.
Yeah, 4 and some. And it's more than 13.1 miles.
Yes, it is not a 13.1. It has additional.
Or 21K. It's at least 22, maybe 23K. between 22 and 23K if you're one of our European friends.
So, you get to see it the first time, so then you get to see it, 3 more times after that. I wore my wristbands, so the way that they did it was, I don't have my blue one.
No.
But you got 3 different colors.
4.
Or 4, sorry. 4. The 4th different color here. 4 different colors. So then after you collected all 4 bands, you then went through on.
So you came out of transition, you took right, and you basically did this loop. And where they were putting the wristbands on you, after you had 4 wristbands on you, then you went straight. So after you finished your 4th loop, you went straight. And it was still half a mile.
It was long.
So from there to the finish line, it was more of a like a J or whatever fish hook. It was still a half a mile. So if you're trying to win your age group or something, just know that it's not right there.
Yeah. Don't not give it all the gas right there at the for certain.
It was hilly. You could walk. We walked the hill. I walked the hills. I would say it was hilly.
Yeah, I would definitely call it hilly. The biggest hill to me was right after you got handed these. You took a hard right, and it was just a long. It wasn't that bad of an incline, but it was a long incline up, and it was shaded right there.
Yeah, it was narrow too, so it kind of felt small.
I walked it, but this run course was not closed to traffic. You had a dedicated lane, and I never felt pressed or uncomfortably small.
So in Atlantic City, I got annoyed at some of the people. This race, I did not get annoyed at any of the spectators.
No, the spectators did a great job.
Or just people that were, that's what it was in Atlantic City. It wasn't really spectators as much. It was just people out on the boardwalk or whatever who didn't care that you were running a race. This one seemed to be pretty much all spectators, which the area that we ran on their boardwalk area was not where the shops and stuff were. It was kind of where some resorts were, but you had to go down towards the finish line to get to where the shops were, and you only did that one time. And by that time you're delirious because you're thinking, my goodness, this race has to be over at some point, that you probably don't even remember if anybody was rude to you. We had some kids run with us one time.
We did
on that little section.
They were enjoying getting cheered for.
Yeah.
This is it's got a lot of turns, twists. It's got a lot of movement for a run course, considering how small it is. With 4 laps, I'm going to call it a small lap.
So the aid stations. Let's keep this in mind. The first aid station from when you exit transition until you get to it was a little over a mile. And that's important because that's probably the proper place for that. But the last aid station before you come to transition again was at least a half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile. So the distance between the last aid station on the course and the first aid station on the course was almost 2 miles. So you had that last aid station, you need to make sure you get whatever you need for a couple of miles because you're not going to hit the next one for a couple of miles.
So they did not offer ice. If you asked for ice, they would give it to you. It was like baseball size ice. It's not a small,
You couldn't just stick that in your head?
I did. I just looked like I had a lump in my head.
Like you had cancer?
But that last aid station only had water.
That's all I drank anyway, so I didn't pay attention. They didn't have any isotonic drink or anything?
No ISO, no snacks, nothing at that aid station.
Okay.
So just water, and it was like 4 tables. So plenty of support. But that was the only one that didn't have bananas or ISO or anything else, just water.
So keep that in mind. The run course itself, hilly. No hill that the one hill that would probably make you really upset that they had it on the course, they let you go down because they had a bunch of switchbacks to get down.
Yeah.
If you were running up that, you probably would have been upset about it. So they did that correctly. It kind of went out of town and then came or out of the beach area and then came back to the beach area. And then you did that 4 times. the run whipped me. For some reason I passed Sam in transition going to the bike, and then I was a few minutes ahead of him coming off the bike, and then he caught me on second lap maybe, and was a good bit ahead of me for the third and fourth lap until he decided that he had pity on me and wanted to finish together. But for me, I mean, I don't remember how long it took me to do the run, but it was a long time, and I was just wiped out. So keep that in mind. Make sure you have salt for this race. I had salt all over my legs, all over my tri-suit. And even though the race wasn't in like the 90s where you would think, okay, I'm going to lose a lot of salt, apparently this race you're going to lose a lot of salt. So make sure you have extra salt for this race, even though it's not super hot.
Yeah, that ambulance was going all day.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and look and see how many people finished, but
lots of people passing out.
When I got to drop off the rental car, that was the only question that the guy had for me. Did you do the Ironman? Yeah. Did you finish?
Yeah. I mean, not how you do.
Is that really a question?
Yeah.
Because does not everybody finish? Apparently, they do not.
The run. I wasn't mad at it. It didn't seem like a spiteful run. It followed a fairly natural course for what it had to be. So it was a little bit long. But I enjoyed it. That wasn't you had enough changes, lots of opportunities for spectators to see you, and a fairly good. I'm going to call it a good run. It was difficult. It's just not a PR course. If you're looking to challenge yourself, this is a great race for it. If you're looking for a PR or a first or whatever, should not be your first. This should not be anyone's first.
I don't know. I mean, if you're ever only going to do one Ironman in your life, and you want to say you did the toughest one ever,
fair enough.
This is the one.
Yes, I'll give you that.
And for me, it was a really tough race, but it was not miserable.
Correct.
I've been miserable in several races.
Yeah,
and
that weren't
and
as
this
difficult.
one, I know, and this one was not a miserable race.
I'd absolutely agree with that.
So going up to the finish line, like I said, it was probably half a mile literally a half a mile from
yes.
Which made the course at least 13 and a half, between 13 and a half and 14 miles. You cross the finish line, and they had a bottle of water. They had the medal. They had the T-shirt. Okay, so this is the
T-shirts weren't until.
Oh, that's right. So did they have the medal though? Did they give you the medal there?
Nope.
What did they give you?
Applause.
And that was it?
Yeah, we did get a cup of water or Coke. I think there was Coke.
And then you walked to the athlete village area, which is where they had the food. Is that where they gave you the medal and the T-shirt?
Correct.
Okay.
So this part of the race didn't seem really well done to me. Nobody really kind of knew what to do. Where are my hands? After you cross the finish line, maybe some more signage or something like that from the race. Hey,
yeah, we had a fair number of people asking us, "Hey, where do you get the medal from?" And we're like, "I don't know.
You tell me, brother."
Good news was the race director and our teammate or whatever came and took pictures with us and said congratulations. So they knew who we were. Well, that was pretty cool. But you finished the finish line, and then you need to walk, and it's not that far, maybe a quarter of a mile or so.
Yeah, not super far.
To the athlete village. I guess they're limited in the space of the town of where they could put stuff.
Yeah. And
there was just no space at where this finish line was that they could put stuff.
Sorry, I was looking for the medal. Did you grab it already?
No, it's right there.
Oh. There we go.
So anyway, we get to the athlete village, and they give you your shirt, which is European
sizes.
So make sure when you're requesting your shirts that you ask for the you upsize because the American, this is a large.
Yeah, this is
an extra large.
This is an extra large.
So this is the front of the shirt, and I'm wearing mine backwards. So this is the back of the shirt. So it's a pretty cool shirt.
It's a really cool shirt.
It's a technical shirt. I mean,
Yeah, it's a finisher shirt, so no hats.
Yeah, but you had to finish to be able to get the shirt, I suppose. And then you got the medal, which the medal's pretty cool too.
So medal is cool. Club La Santa, so actually a thin ribbon, which doesn't bother me because it is silk, but good medal.
Has the cutout of
For
the Canary Island,
for the Lanzarote. And then you got this
Lanzarote.
Lanzarote is what I'm going with. I have no idea what the bracelet's for, but we got a bracelet. So
And it says finisher.
Does it? Finisher 9th edition.
Finisher,
Finisher bracelet. For whatever your bracelet needs are. But that's the first bracelet we've gotten out of a race. And a giant bag of food.
Yes. So you got your food after the race was over. You did not get it before the race was. So for Austria and France, we both got the giant bag of food in the beginning
and after.
Oh, do we get a giant bag of food after?
Oh, yeah, because you had that food. You had that line in France. You walked around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it may have been COVID related because it was all your post race food, but it was all
in a bag.
They just handed Here's your bag. I don't know what to describe it as. There was some quinoa. There was some stuff.
I don't even know that I looked at it. There was plenty of water bottles.
Yeah, there were two bottles of water. Yeah, lots of food, but nothing especially memorable. All right, we got rankings on the race.
All right, so you have to understand that the race is billed as the toughest Ironman in the world. So if you know that going in, I mean, it felt like, okay, so the swim, it felt like you could do something different than swimming everybody into the sun.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could do that, but...
I feel like you could just come out to sea and then go back in.
Yeah, I don't know. But it seems like when you swim people directly into the sun with the glare, that was kind of tough.
You had to make the swim hard somehow. So
if
it's the toughest,
then I'll give you that.
I also didn't like it. I'm gonna take off some for
the bike. I heard several comments that last hill was unnecessary. I don't know that it was unnecessary if you're billing it as the hardest, because that's a tough hill, and it made the course. There was the one U-turn out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
That didn't bother me because you were going uphill as you turned, so you were already going pretty slow. And then you had that last U-turn, which was around a big roundabout, so that didn't bother me either as far as the U-turn. The road going down, I'm really kind of surprised that I didn't see an ambulance there with somebody.
The stretcher out ready to go.
Yeah, because that was kind of a rough road. I mean, really, you paved that road, and I think that you're going to get a lot of people that like that. I mean, because you can probably get up to like 55 with a smooth road. Easily. I bet you could probably get the fastest you've ever gotten on a bike.
And if you had it smooth going up as well, I would expect you could add another couple miles an hour to your some of that is you're dealing with that. I mean, I want to compare this. If I'm comparing it to Africa roads, I don't know how to compare the roads, really. Just an island versus Africa versus European roads.
Versus snow roads in the U.S.
Yeah. For the most part, the overwhelming majority, the roads were phenomenal. Great asphalt, no cracks, no issues at all. That one hill, that one very first hill, was New York, snow road worthy. It was terrible, and just
it's not the worst road we've ever been on. It was rough pavement. It was not a bunch of different patches. I mean, remember that mile that we went on? I don't remember what race that was. Yeah. Whatever it was, where you had to slalom. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, so it was not like that.
No.
All it was basically the road had eroded, and the aggregate or gravel or whatever on top was up.
Yeah.
So if you could change that,
help that out.
On the run, I don't. I mean, so transition. I don't think there's anything they can do to change transition. I think that's pretty much what it is.
Mm-hmm.
On the run, I'm not sure, other than figuring out a way to make that thing 21K, 13.1 miles. I don't know what you could do mean, surely there's something that you could do to make it where it's the correct distance.
It somewhere.
I mean, a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, that's a long way on a tough
Yeah,
course.
and mostly it's just because it's not expected. So once again, if you just say, hey man, there's some extra here at the end, just some warning from the race might help that a lot.
I mean, Chattanooga does that with their 1.4 mile swim.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, but it's downriver, so it's okay. It's okay, guys. It's 1.4 mile swim, but it's downriver. So anyway, all of that being said, I'm going to give the race a 6. It was, for what I believe is a licensed race, very well put on. There's a couple of things that I think they could change to make it a little bit better, but it was a tough race, but it wasn't miserable. I'm giving it a 6.
If you're scoring the race director and the quality that they put on the race, it's a 6.5, maybe 7. They did a phenomenal job. The race itself, if I'm rating it against the hardest race in the world, I think they achieved that. So they absolutely achieved what they set out. As far as any race goes, I gotta go. It's a 6. I'm with you. It's a really good race. It's a tough ass race. But out of 7, out of possible score of 7, I'm gonna give it a 6. I don't know that I would do this race again, but I would certainly encourage people to do it. So it might be a really good bucket list race.
Okay.
Absolutely. So thanks so much. Stay tuned for race stories. We'll see you next time.